that nothing's in a fucking vacuum, and you just got to be smart, because one decision does not set you in one. It's not about one decision. It's about living your life and what can happen by living your life 6 moves down the road that you never saw coming. Right?
Welcome to the top.
Oh, yeah.
We killing annual quotas. It's the 1%er show, in case you haven't noticed.
All right, welcome to the top. I'm your host, Paul Salamanca, VP of Sales at Security Scorecard, co-founder of the Top 1%er, a private sales community here in Bravado. With me, as usual, our co-host, Tom Bocard, Senior VP of Sales at Global Data, and our very, very special guest today, Keenan, Chief Evangelist, CEO of a Sales Guy, best-selling author of Gap Selling. Welcome to the show, Keenan. I know, Tom, you just finished reading his book. What'd you think? I saw one of your posts saying that that you're already starting to implement some of this.
Yeah. I actually, so truth be told, I didn't actually read it. I listened to it.
Oh, that's okay.
And dude, I've just gotten into Audible. I love the fact that you read it. It was like,
thank you.
I was pumped up. I'm like listening at night. I'm like, shit, I got to go to sleep. Let me put this away. But it was, it's a great book. I highly, highly recommend. It's now like my #1 sales recommended book, for sure.
Got my kids into skiing early. I mean, literally everything's connected. So I'm telling the story not to be verbose, but to help people understand that nothing's in a fucking vacuum, and you just got to be smart, because one decision does not set you in one. It's not about one decision. It's about living your life and what can happen by living your life 6 moves down the road that you never saw coming, right? So my dad thought he was being smart, and he was not being honest with himself. He was running into tough financial times. So he tried couching it as, look, you kids are older now, you need to participate in the family, and so, you need to pay rent. And I was like, oh, fucking rent. So one particular time, he told me, I come home on a Friday from school, and he's like, where's your rent? And my rent was $25 a week back then, which was only $100 a month, right? But back then, the minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. Wow. Don't get me going to the fucking minimum wage bullshit. So you think about that. I got to work about 12 hours a week just to make $25. While I was going to school, I played sports. So basically, it was almost everything that I made every week. And this one particular Friday, he's like, do you have your rent? I think I only had like $17. So I give him my $17. I'm like, that's all I get. Where's the rest of it? I don't have it, blah, blah, blah. And then I a little while later said, hey, I'm going out. And he said, okay, be home by 11. Now, I don't know what the fuck was going on in because normally my curfew was 12:31, roughly around the same time my friends. And he said, be home 11. Like, 11? But everybody's still out. We need 11. And he got all fucking uppity, and he was like, listen, curfew's 11. If you don't like it, I don't care. And then I snapped, and I said, listen, I've had it. You can be my landlord and collect my fucking rent, and I'll come home when I goddamn well please, or you can be my dad, and I'll be home at 11 and give me my $17 back because I need my money. But you can't be my dad and my landlord. And he looked me right in the eye, and he said, if you think you can get a better deal somewhere else, what you do? I said, well, fuck you, I will. And I left. I walked out.
Wait, how old are you at this point? That's
16 or 17.
Okay.
That's crazy. So then you walk out thinking what? That I'll go sleep over a buddy's house for a night or two and then come back home?
Like 3-4 miles away. I remember it. Walked to my buddy. It was a long ass walk too. And I walked the whole way in the dark. I was crying.
So you're still in high school working. And then once that happened, when did you start to realize, all right, I'm good at sales. This is something I want to do. I'm like, what's happening way after?
Years later.
Way after?
Dude, right. I partied. I went back to Cape Cod, tried to make it work with my dad for my senior year. That lasted freaking 3 months. I'm back out in my own place, tell him to fuck off again. I can't handle his ass. Then I graduate. I go back to Boston to 2-year junior college, same one as Gary Vaynerchuk, oddly enough, called Mount Ida College. It's funny, I'm 10 years older than his ass, but we went to the same college. Got into skiing. Yep. This is dope. So I'm not going back to school. Fuck this. I'm going to go live in Killington for the winter. Right? Again, guys, my story is listening to the signs and not letting yourself get boxed in. So I'm all set. I got 3 buddies coming with me. We're going to move to Killington. It's going to be the best thing ever. And I'm at a party. This is so random. And it's like, I don't know, right about now. Literally, it could be end of August, beginning of September. Like, it's close to when I'm supposed to go to Killington, right? And I'm at this party, and this is old man. When I mean old, he was probably early 30s. But if you're only 21, that's an old dude, right? So I remember thinking, what the fuck are you doing at this party with a bunch of 20-year-olds, you freak? But anyway, somehow I end up talking to him, and I tell him about how I'm going to Killington. And normally when I tell people that's like, oh, that's so cool. Oh, and this dude looked at me blank-faced. And I'm like, did you not hear me, man? I'm going to Killington. He goes, yeah, whatever. I'm like, what do you mean, whatever? He goes, Killington. The best skiing in the world is in Colorado or Utah. Why are you going to Killington? And I was like, but it's the biggest one in the East Coast. He goes, yeah, the East Coast. And he goes, if you're really serious, you go to Aspen, Steamboat, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to come home on the weekends and party in Boston with my buddies. And he must have thought I was the biggest dumbass. He goes, you're going to drive 3 hours on a Friday afternoon instead of hanging out in Killington to go drink with your friends in Boston? You're dumber than I thought. And that was the last thing I remember. A week later, front cover of Ski Magazine, Vail, #1 ski resort in North America. That was all I needed. Picked up my freaking phone, called my two buddies, said we're not going to Killington anymore, we're going to Vail. I called Vail, I got a place to live, I got us jobs, all within 2 weeks. We got in my Jeep a month and a half later, shunk, drove out to Vail and never left.
When you're doing these things, thoughts are creeping into your mind. Correct me if I'm wrong. Shit, what am I doing? Right, you have some self-doubt coming into your mind. What are you doing during these times to kind of quiet
No
that?
self-doubt. No self-doubt. None.
At all?
None. Nope. No self-doubt. Because here, look, I have this saying, I have this belief system, and I'm probably going to offend some people with this, but I've had to fight it. Like, if you're a homeless person or you're at rock bottom, sometimes that's the easiest life in the world. You got nothing to lose.
Yep.
Like literally, like your goals, your day-to-day is, did I get enough food in my belly? I scored, I got food, I scored, I got a warm place to sleep. Like, I'm not saying that's easy, but that's a shitload easier. It's a very transactional life. And if you get comfortable with that life, I can see how people are like, rest is too fucking complicated, right? Like, ooh, I got a warm place to sleep, dope, right? Now, it comes with all kinds of other shit that I don't want, but so when I was in those situations, it wasn't hard. It was, I don't want this. So it was easy, to me, it's easier to run from shit and figure it out than run towards shit without a whole lot of pressure, right? So I just like, all right, well, I gotta go find a place to live. All right, it was low volume, like, or low quality, low volume. Like, how hard is it to get a fucking, at 21, a shitty place to live with a buddy in Vail? Like, I mean, it's got a bed. That's all I care about, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't hard.
So then what point in your life were you like, I want more?
Always, but it depends on how you define more, right? Like, I had I tell kids this today, and if I had the thing, I'd show it to you. But I created this thing, like, can you see my hands? Oh, you probably can't see my hands. So, oh, shit. So basically what I say is, pretend you start your life here, right? That's 0. And over here, we'll say, wherever that is, sorry. Right, so over here is 85, right? Well, if we cut it in half, that's 42.5, right? So if you, from 0 to 18, you live for your parents. Can we agree with that?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so except for me. For most of you, you live for your parents. Your parents decide how the fuck everything works. Then from 18 to 21, you're kind of on your own, but for most of you, you're still someone under your parents' thumb. So it's not until 21 to 21 and on are you living your own life, right? Well, if you get married or you start your career anywhere before 26, 27, 28, you basically have fucked your life, because you only get about 3 to 6 years for most people, 3 to 8, 9 years for those who stretch it. Dumbasses like me, 15 years, but basically 3 to 7 years of only you time. Think about that for a second. Just you, selfish time. That's it. Selfish time. That's from the time you freaking get 21 to the time that you decide to get a real job and or get married and or both. So I tell kids all the time, maximize that shit. Like, maximize the motherfuck out of that shit, because it's not the same. You cannot travel the world at 65 with $100 million in the bank the same way you can when you're 21 with almost no money. It's actually better that way. Hostels and drinking with people and meeting people is far better than living on a boat and, having servants take you. It just doesn't work that way. So live it. And that's what I did, Paul. I literally was like, fuck this. I'm going to live. Traveled all the way around the world. I freaking lived in South Beach, Miami. I lived on Cape Cod in the summers. I lived in Vail in the winters. Like, did whatever the hell I wanted. And then finally at 27, I said, all right, I need a real job, but still fucked around and didn't get married. So I was 36.
Yeah. How did you get from there to where you are now? What was your first sales job, and then how did you start getting better and better at it?
I think like anything else, if you're intellectually honest with yourself and you're really good at you have a high level of self-awareness, then you know these things and you live an authentic life. And I was in South Beach trying to model, and a buddy called me up and he said, "You need to come home." And I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "I got a job for you. It's in sales. You'll crush sales. This little thing you're doing right now is not going to last forever. Get your ass home." And I started doing the math. Like I started saying, okay, even if I become a top model, which I don't think I was going to, but let's say I do. For men back then, it was Tyson Beckford. Probably don't remember him, but yeah, but I was like, I'm not gonna be Tyson Beckford. It's funny, one of my good friends modeled with him, and I met him back up in Manhattan Beach, and he'd been hanging out like crazy. I hadn't seen him in 25 years, how the world works. But anyway, so I was like, all right, let me do the math. And I processed this, how much I think I would make if I made it, and how long I could go, and then what? And then I said, okay, if I went into business, what do I think I could make? And I just did the math, and I was like, it's going to be like this, but it's going to cross soon, and I'll never be able to get back to where I'd be if I started my career now. So I went back. It was a sales job. I fucking crushed it. They hired someone with me who was safe, and I was the guy with no experience. He left after 2 months. I became the top rep, broke all their records. I met a company. One of my customers that I sold to in that job was super impressed. So a year later, they brought me on and doubled my salary, and they hired someone next to me who was proven, and I wasn't, and that person made it 2 months, and I became a partner within 3 years. And then another customer hired me. Now it's $19.99. I'm making a $175,000 base, $500,000 at plan, and I was crushing it. And then that company went bankrupt because high-speed internet came out. They sold managed mode, and they sold the dial-up dial-up went away. So then I started getting into businesses. Started a blog in 2009. Did that blog for 2 years. Everybody started seeing who I was. Started reaching out. We got bought by another company. I had a choice: go get another job, or leverage the blog for a consulting company. Said I'd give myself 6 months. It's been 10 years. You keep saying, "Oh, it's no big deal," and I've never really thought about it before. Right? I'm like, okay, I guess he's right. And I'm sure, look, I told you when I got kicked out, as I tell the story, no big deal, but I was a 16-year-old kid babbling as I'm walking down the street in the pitch fucking black of Cape Cod to my buddy's house. I mean, don't think there was an emotion involved, right?
Yeah.
But here's what I'd like to tell people. It's a the more emphasis and focus we put on the external, the bigger the deal it is. The less focus we put on the external, and the more focus we just put on ourselves and what we're doing and what I can address and what I want to do, the less big deal it is. It's literally the external environment that creates the big deal. If I don't think it's a big deal that I have to sleep in the street at night, then it's not a big deal.
Yep.
Right? If I don't think it's a big deal that I have to go to a friend's house and put my tail between my legs and say, "Hey, do you mind if I sleep on your couch?" then it's not a big deal. It's only, look, not being able to eat and starving, being in danger, okay, those are different. But outside of that, 90% of what we say is a big deal isn't a fucking big deal. We're attaching shit to it.
Yeah, but you're wired differently to even think that way, especially at that age. Because when I was that age, if that were to happen to me, I would probably make it a big deal because now I have to ask a buddy to sleep there. What would that buddy's parents think of me, like you said? And
what the fuck do you care what people think about you? What do you think about you? What do you think about you?
But it took me years. It took me years to get to that point. You're 16 years old and you're still thinking that way. That's what I'm talking about. It took me a lot of reading to feel that way. To not give a shit about external, to feel fulfilled internal, to be comfortable in my own skin. I don't know, Tom, if you feel the same way. Like, what are other kids going to say about me? What are this? After a while, that goes away.
Don't look, guys. Again, I still suffer from insecurity like most people, right? I do care what people think. I mean, look, I think it's all levels of degrees, right? And I was a babbling little kid, 16 or 17, walking down that street in the dark. And by the way, and I'm remembering the walk now. I wish I could show you. It was a long-ass walk. I remember now. It was the whole town over. Like, I was in South Dennis, and I had to walk all the way to West Yarmouth. That is a long-ass way, but I digress. But I think the other thing is, too, is this uncanny knack to try to look at least some of the bright side. So to me, even though I was sad and I'm scared and all that, the other side was I can do whatever I want when I want. right? I'm like semi-emancipated. Like I don't have curfew anymore.
Yeah.
I can go drinking. I don't have to show up at school. Like literally, I do my teachers crazy because I didn't live anywhere. So the teacher would try to call and say, "Hey, you're not in school." I'm like, "I know. I'm right here talking to you. What are you gonna do about it?" Like you ain't gonna do nothing about it. So fuck off. I'll get to school and I get to school, right? So there was a whole another angle of freedom and emancipation that was exciting to me, right? So my goal at the time, I'll never forget this. I said, "Don't do anything permanent." So that meant like I wasn't robbing people, I wasn't carrying guns, I wasn't doing drugs. Okay, smoke weed in once in a while, but other than that, no. Like I wasn't touching drugs. Like I to this day, actually, my friends in college are all crazy ass folks, and they always said, Keenan, he drunk his ass up, but he would not touch the drugs, wasn't touching the other stuff. I just didn't want to do anything permanent I couldn't get myself out of. But other than that, I was like, I'm just gonna have the time of my life and live on my terms, and I'll figure it out. Just figure it out.
That's great. That's great. Of your stories, we appreciate it. Gap selling. If you haven't bought the book, go buy it. Like a wise man, Nas, once said, why shoot the breeze about it when you can be about it? So join us every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, here on the Top 1%er Show. And
Welcome to the top.
Oh, yeah.
We killing annual quotas. It's the 1%er Show, in case you haven't noticed.